Hey there, YouTube. Gonna try and get some videoing in today. Tried to do that yesterday and that just didn't happen. Thought I could squeeze it in this morning before church and that didn't happen. So, here we are. Wanted to talk about comms for a second. No, not how to use the Baofane or anything like that. There are way better channels to learn that stuff from. Guess mostly as I understand it, the Lightfoot Militia perspective of comms, communications, radios, and how it differs from, I think, a lot of Minutemen mindsets. So, in the unit structures of a Lightfoot Militia Battalion, your local county militia unit, you don't see a guy with a radio until you get to platoon level. The fire team doesn't have a radio. The squad doesn't have a radio. The first time you see a radio operator is as an assistant to the platoon leader, which is a sergeant first class? Probably got that wrong. I need to practice my my rank and unit structure information for the Lightfoot. But yeah, most guys aren't going to use a radio. Why? Radios are kind of complicated. Not in the sense that, oh, it takes years of practice to learn how to use a radio. No, it's a skill set, though. You have to learn how to use a radio. And let's be honest, unless it's your hobby or it's a part of your job, that's just one more thing you have to learn, and it's already kind of hectic enough to learn everything else that the militia does. And how that differs from, I think, most Minutemen and militia types, I think it stems out of there was a time where we were all basing our kit off of high-speed operators, and which is fine, but I'm not high-speed. A lot of you watching this are not high-speed, and if we're doing this as militiamen, as Minutemen, out of our own time and energy, we're not going to be high-speed. And because of that, I think most of us probably don't need a radio. Or we don't need a radio on our kit like everyone seems to do. Because we're not Spec Ops, we're not Special Forces, we're just prepared citizens. Now, should you own a radio? Should you learn how to use that radio? Yeah, obviously. But in the sense of, as a militia, maybe minimize who's got a radio on them. Risky Krisky talks about this. Rip Risky Krisky's channel. Go follow him on Twitter and Rumble. Citadel Defense has talked about this. PNW Guerrilla has talked about this. In many instances, not having a radio on you is going to save you and your team's life. You're not going to accidentally key the mic. You're not going to be transmitting telltale signs to whoever you're fighting against where you are. We see this in Ukraine. I can't remember exactly how it started, but both sides were using digital or analog, and then one side switched, and so it became a thing where they were able to say, oh, if this kind of radio signal is being broadcasted, we know it's not ours, go ahead and strike it. So the best way to avoid something like that is just not be transmitting. That's why you need to have non-electronic means of communication, like hand signals and stuff like that. communication styles that are not necessarily clandestine. As long as you're not giving away information that is going to clearly earmark what you're doing, i.e. send it in code, you could probably keep using your cell phone and just send regular text messages, or at least in the beginning when cell towers are still operational. You know, obviously don't say, go to this location. It would be meet up at Rally Point 1, Alpha. And then probably leave your cell phone at home so that the cell phone doesn't give you away, and you would meet at your pre-designated Rally Point Alpha. Anywho, just kind of a perspective of comms from the Lightfoot Militia standpoint. Not everyone needs to be a radio operator. Not everyone should be a radio operator. That is a specific job, and by relegating it, one, we can focus on training a handful of people to be really good at radio. Again, everyone should learn how to operate a radio and should learn some of the basics. But we focus on making sure just our radio operators are really good at radio, and then there's less likelihood of signals being intercepted because fewer signals are being sent. Anywho, Lightfoot Militia radios, and let's go ahead and go for a walk and maybe talk about more stuff. Ciao.